I want to tell you a story. Very recently, I consulted with a client, and obviously, the client was so worried. Why? Because they have received a procedural fairness letter from IRCC, whereby IRCC is questioning their language test results. Okay, and the language test result here was French, and I was quite surprised because the client was so confident. And it wasn't the client who was talking to me; it was a relative of the client. And then when we looked at the document, the procedural fairness letter that was received from IRCC, it clearly questioned that we understand that your French language exams that you have provided to us is fraudulent. And therefore, we are giving you 30 days to provide any explanation, any reasoning why this has happened, or what is the explanation for this, and then we can talk about it. Otherwise, we are going to refuse your application. And mind you, this also is misrepresentation for providing fraudulent documents. Therefore, you will have 5 years. You can possibly get a 5-year ban. So the person very concerned and said, "How is this happening? We have done this test, and we have written to the authorities who have administered the test. They have not responded back." So I said, okay. So I was like quite perplexed with this, because if it's a genuine test, then there is no way IRCC is going to send you a document like this, right? Why would something like this happen? And as I started talking to this person in detail and understanding where did they give the examination, which authority did they give the examination, who have they written to, what has been the email exchange, if they can share the email exchange. And once I started reviewing the email exchange between the authority, it became abundantly clear that this was not a genuine examination. This was not a genuine test result. This person actually had obtained a fraudulent test result. How did that happen? Well, they were contacted by a person who seemed to be knowing it all, and apparently convinced them that this is going to be a genuine arrangement. And these people went ahead and paid a hefty sum of money to get the French language exam results. And as you can see, then they now have, they are now a bit of a pickle now with IRCC. Bure kaam ka bura natija is something which we have heard so many times. And obviously my consultation did not end very well. I don't think they were very pleased, because I could not offer them any solution for something like this. I mean, what solution can you offer for something like this? This has already been done and dusted. You have it on record. You can't do anything about something like this. These are the things that you have to think before you get into situations like this, whereby you are blatantly and so confidently providing such a fake document and then expecting everything's going to be fine. Similarly, there has been another situation. I want to tell you this story as well, that another client that I have consulted with just yesterday. And this points to another procedural fairness, where it all comes out about the fake documentation, and this time inside Canada, because with this STEM categories, people have started, looking at figuring out ways of how to get your 6 months work experience. This intelligent individual obtained fake payroll from an employer. And now, mind you, applications are getting processed very quickly, right? It's no longer 6 months, 1 year, 2 years. They are getting processed like this. There are applications which we know in Express Entry getting processed in as flat as 45 days and sometimes even lesser. So this person, once they understood that the STEM category draws are going to happen and these are the kind of scores that they're dropping into, this person obtained fake payroll documentation from some agent in some place out there, who charged him again a hefty amount of money, gave him pay slips, pay stubs, etc., etc. And this person went ahead and submitted their application with the fake payroll, okay, after having shown 6 pay stubs, etc., etc. IRCC, I mean, for some reason, people think that IRCC is really stupid. They're really dumb. They don't know what they're doing, right? I mean, how does it matter? Just give a fake pay stub and they won't really know, as long as it's a pay stub. So this person did that, and they got a procedural fairness where IRCC is saying we have ample of reasons to doubt the authenticity of this work experience that you have. Please provide more documentation, provide your bank statements, provide your T4s, provide your CRA, provide your company's PD7s. PD7 is the document which states that how many employees the company has and how much remittance this company has made to CRA for all the deductions that they make from your salary. And now this person is in a soup. Now he's consulting and asking, what can I do? What documentation can I provide? Well, if you have provided fake documents to start with, now when the inquiry happens, for you to now try and refute that, try and convince IRCC otherwise, is not going to be easy, because you started with the wrong situation. You started in the wrong situation, you started the wrong foot. And therefore, suggestion, guys, please do not kill your dream by trying to fast track it in a fraudulent manner. I absolutely agree that there are so many times, and it's a known fact, that a lot of people get away with it, right? They provide a fake document, they provide a fake salary slip, they provide fake, a lot of documents, a lot of things, and they get away with it. But that does not mean everybody gets away with it. Not everybody will get away with it. Yes, sometimes they do a good job with the documentation. Sometimes IRCC, for whatever reason, is not able to confirm or have validated it and does not find out or does not identify a fraudulence there. They do have they have a separate section which does all these inquiries. There is the PIU, as you already know, the integrity unit, and all these officers are trained in identifying documentation that are questionable. So please, in a rush of trying to get to the scores and trying to get to your permanent residence aspirations or trying to meet those, getting to those goals, please do not fall into the trap of the fake documentation, because just because somebody else got away with it does not mean you will get away with it. It's a very simple thing, right? For example, you're sitting in your car and you're speeding. You're at a speed of 130, 140, the limit is 100, and you get pulled over by the police, right? And now your cop is writing you a ticket, probably impounding your vehicle, and you can see so many other cars which are speeding past, and you point it out to the cop that, listen, those guys are also speeding. The cop doesn't care about the guys who are speeding and not getting caught. At this point of time, they're only interested in you and penalizing you because you are the one who got caught. So, the best way to avoid that situation is just don't do things that will put you in that situation. With this, let's start today's session. Welcome to the channel. My name is Kubeir. I'm a CICC licensed immigration consultant. And if Canada is on your mind to study, work, visit, immigrate, business immigration, whatever that might be, then probably this is the channel that you have to follow, subscribe, like, share, and then from there on, let's get started with today's weekly roundup. This is what we do every Saturday. And today's episode is going to be another one where we will going to talk about a few things which can be quite interesting. My quote of the week, which I like to sort of quote every week, pick up these quotes which inspire me. The difference between a successful person and others is not the lack of strength, not a lack of knowledge, but rather the lack of will, said Vince Lombardi, which is so true. There is no lack of knowledge. I mean, anybody can go onto the internet and find the information. You don't need me to give you the information. If you really were willing, you will find it. You will have it. Even for me, the information that I give you, I pull it out from whether it's my experiences or whether it's from the internet or whether it's from the IRCC's websites or wherever that might be. I'm just making it easier for you to access it. But that doesn't mean that if you wanted to find that information or if you were looking for it, you cannot get it. Of course you can get it. So the only difference between a person who actually succeeds and the person who is still waiting for things to happen for them is the lack of will. The day you get your will sorted out, as they say, right? Age-old saying, where there is will, there is way, right? If you wish to figure out your way and you're still not finding your way, then I guess the biggest reason is because the will is lacking. The day you have made your will, then you probably will be speeding up on that track pretty fast. So let's get that sorted, right? Right, Canadian Immigration Weekly Roundup. Stay up to date with us on various platforms. We are there pretty much everywhere on all platforms. Starting with the PNP draws today. British Columbia, the usual suspect. The 9th of August, they invited 195 candidates to apply for the provincial nomination. They held 3 different draws. The largest was the general draw for the candidates in skilled worker, international graduate, entry-level and semi-skilled categories, including the express entry candidates, of course. The skilled workers required a minimum score of 107, which is a bit on the higher side. International graduates needed 110. The entry-level and semi-skilled candidates needed a score of 88, which, of course, is pretty cool, right? But then the semi-skilled candidates, when they're scoring 88, they will not be completing their application through express entry. Rather, they would be going through non-express entry route, which could probably take a little bit more time than otherwise, but that doesn't mean they would not get through. But the score is pretty good, right? 88 is pretty nice. The remaining 2 draws were held for targeted occupations, which is in healthcare and early childhood educators. British Columbia has been quite consistent with those 2 occupations. And as you can see, the number of invitations are increasing. Why? Because more and more people have smartened up. They have identified, again, where there is a will, there is a way. You have identified the information, you've vetted that information. Now you have made your will. Now you have identified the path. Now you're going towards it. Therefore, 34 early childhood educators and 22 candidates in healthcare managed to get their invitation from BCPNP. Congratulations to you, to everybody who got it. Earlier, there were only few, 2, 4, 6 kind of invitations. Now you're already coming to a number where there's 56 people. So more people are smartening up, more people are understanding what they can and cannot do, and therefore they are getting to their, they're on their way to their destination. Manitoba on the 10th of August issued 615 expressions of interest, which they also refer to as LAA, letters of advice to apply. The province invited candidates in 3 categories in 4 separate draws. The largest was the occupation specific for those in the skilled worker in Manitoba category. Before I go into the details of the draw, just know that in order to apply for the Manitoba PNP, you need to have some connection to the province. The connection can be you have studied there, you have worked there, you have work experience there, you have relatives there, close relatives, or you have a job offer in Manitoba. Now, you could also be under the strategic initiative from Manitoba, where you have to complete exploratory visit on invitation from Manitoba. And once you do that, that establishes your Manitoba connection. Friends is also an established connection, but the thing is, because of the friends, you get only 50 points, and that 50 points doesn't really give you a lot of advantage. Whereas relatives give you up to 200 points, and therefore that becomes a huge advantage. But in this case, they invited candidates, 249 candidates with a minimum score of 605, which, to be very honest, is a pretty good score. Additional 279 workers were also invited in general non-occupation specific draw with a minimum score of 647. This is also not very bad. The remaining 2 draws saw 47 candidates from the international education stream, which does not need any scores. If you are eligible, you are invited. And 40 candidates were invited from skilled worker overseas stream. These are the people who are not in Canada, who probably have a relative in Manitoba, and that is the biggest connection that they're showing, or even the exploratory visit or strategic initiative that they have. And the score for that was 708. Again, Manitoba also is a great province to consider if you are choosing to come to Canada to study, because if you complete your education in Manitoba and then are able to obtain a job offer from an employer in Manitoba, you can also be eligible to apply for the nomination. So something to keep in mind. Yeah, these were the categories that were invited. Ontario has played a good game with us. When I'm saying good game in the sense, like, so, there was a draw that happened some time back from Ontario, which was the Human Capital Priorities Stream draw. In that, they invited the healthcare categories, and then they invited the tech draw as well. But the tech draw, the score was 458 to 462 because they somehow got stuck with the previous healthcare draw. So Ontario, when they invite people, they play it in tandem with the last express entry draw. The last express entry draw for the healthcare category was 463. So they put 1 point less as the high point, and then they invited the healthcare occupation. So 458 to 462. But they used the same score also for the STEM category or the IT categories or tech draw. So I think in order to overcome what happened was, because this pretty much left everybody between the score of 463 to 485 in a quandary. They did not know what's happening. I mean, why did they leave those people out? Primarily because STEM draws are not happening at this point of time. We don't know why. IRCC should have conducted those category draws, but they're holding back on for some reason. So definitely a lot of people would have been interested. So I think, my opinion only, Ontario conducted a draw. This is a definite news that Ontario has conducted a draw. Now, if I take you to this page, this is the Ontario's website. There is no news. There is no information of the draw. In August, they've had a draw on the 3rd of August, which was the skilled trades occupation. They've had an August 1 draw, which was the master's PhD stream and the employer job offer worker for under the EMPP stream. But there is no human capital priorities draw for yesterday, which was the 11th of August, So what's going on, Ontario? We don't know at this point of time, but what I can tell you is that where's that gone? Yeah, that the draw definitely happened. And the reason why we know that the draw definitely happened is because lots of people have received notifications of interest, including a lot of our clients as well. So we have that as proof that yes, yesterday the draw has happened. Also on our Facebook group that we have, which is a strong community of 250,000 people, plus also on Twitter, a lot of people have come back and confirmed that they did indeed receive a notification of interest yesterday from Ontario. Now, the range that we are finding out from these people is between 473 and 480. If you are a person who has also received a notification of interest, then please do comment. Let me know if you received as well. And what was your score? What was your NOC code? So we can further see if this range is something which is being adhered to, or did they go beyond this? So I'm looking to see if they've actually come down to 472, 471, because I haven't seen it as of right now. So I can't say. I've seen 473. I've seen 480. I haven't seen 481, 482s or those scores. So why is this range stuck at this point of time? Is only because that is what I know of at this point of time. I do not know of any other scores, and therefore I'm not going to comment on that. But this draw definitely happened. And as I'm saying, the reason is because some of our clients have received it. And of course, there are a lot of other people who have also confirmed. The NOC codes were, excuse me, the NOC codes are primarily the same IT NOC codes. There are 10 NOC codes that IRCC uses, and they are pretty much the same NOC codes for this particular draw as well. And yeah, so that's the way to go about it. If you have been invited, by all means do ensure that you make this application, you submit this application in time, because you may not get another chance. And if that is the case, then that is going to be pretty much a pity. I'm just trying to look for something. Just give me a moment. I was just trying to find you some information, but I don't think it's been posted yet. No, it's not been posted. Yeah, so at this point of time, we're pretty much stuck with the same thing, as in Ontario having conducted the draw. We don't know what the details are. Usually, Ontario takes a bit of time to publish that information. And once they have published, then we will know the exact number of invitations issued, the NOC codes, as well as the CRS draw range. So we will talk about it when we get there, right? Express entry. Let's talk about express entry. That is our favorite subject, right? So the immigration levels for late 2023. What's going on with that one? IRCC, obviously, as we know, has immigration ambitious plans, right? At this point of time, I don't think there is any other country in the world which has such high number of immigration targets or quotas. Let's take a look at this. Okay, so these are the immigration plans for 2023 to 2025. So what they were looking to do is, for this year, 2023, they have a requirement, or rather, they have a target of 465,000 people for, and that is the range, 410 to 505. So it's not a fixed number, it's a range, right? So they could go as low as 410,000, they could go as high as 505,000. So target for 224 is 485,000, so up by 20,000. And then, why am I not being able to see this? Hold on. The range for, yeah, now we can see. The range for 2025 is 500,000. So that's the target, right? So now they do a multi-year level plan. So you have 3 years in advance, you know exactly which way the government is taking you, you know what the immigration levels plan is, you know the provincial nominee programs as to what they are expecting. For example, the provincial nominee programs for this year is 105,500. Mind you, all of this is not express entry. It includes all their nomination programs, whether it is business immigration, priority occupations, any kind of streams that they might have. It includes all of them. And then for next year, it's 110,000 and then 117,500 in 2025. So these are the quotas, these are the numbers. The total economic immigration. Now, when we say economic, so what we usually talk about is economic immigration. That is your express entry, provincial nominee programs, Atlantic immigration programs. All these programs are part of economic immigration. So with the target for economic, so when they say 465,000, that does not mean everybody is being invited through express entry. A lot of people confuse that, and a lot of agents use this kind of information to fool you and scam you. So please don't fall for that. Always be smart customer. Always go out, explore, research, check, and then you have the better information. So for total economic immigration quota for this year is only 266,210, which is almost 55% of the actual quota. The other numbers are basically for spouse and partners and children of permanent residents or citizens in Canada. So these are the family sponsorship, the parents, grandparents. Then you have the protected persons, they have the resettled refugees, the other refugees, and then the refugee category. So total 76,305 under the refugee categories, and then the humanitarian and compassionate grounds is 15,985. That forms the total number of people. But the reason why I'm giving you all of this is that at this point of time, let's get back to my presentation. Yeah, at this point of time, there has been some significant changes, as you're already aware, in Express Entry. Now that instead of just picking the top ranking profile, they have now moved away only from doing that. They are now also identifying category-based draw. So they've started looking at specific categories. There are at this point of time 6 specific categories, including the French proficiency. You have STEM, you have agriculture, you have transport, you have healthcare. Which one did I forget? And trades category, right? So you have 6 categories. They started conducting the draws. They've already conducted the draws in French, STEM, healthcare, and trades. Now we are looking forward to the transport and agriculture, which I am assuming, or I'm expecting for one of these to happen next week. Probably on Monday or Tuesday, you will have a regular Express Entry draw where they will issue anywhere from 1,000 to 2,500 invitations, hopefully more, so that the scores can come down a bit. After they've conducted a draw, again, as what we have been seeing as a trend, any of the ministers are going to come and announce that they will now cater to the labor market shortage, and they will be inviting the transport category, or they will be inviting the agriculture category. And then from there on, Wednesday or Thursday or Friday, you will see a draw in that category as well. Hopefully, they will also have another draw in between, probably the healthcare, STEM, or French, and that would then make this whole week, the coming week, of nice looking draws that we are looking forward to. At least this has been the trend over the past few weeks, so I'm hoping that's what they'll stay with. But looking at these numbers, they've already invited quite a few people this year. They've already issued almost 60,000 ITAs in Express Entry. But let's look at this number. They have already finalized 232,120 new permanent residents as of June 2023. Okay. So the quota for this year is 465,000. That is the total quota. So when I'm saying they've already finalized, it means not people who have received ITAs, but people whose PR applications have been approved and they have arrived in Canada. If they are outside Canada, or if they're inside Canada, they have received the COPR. As of that date, they have become permanent residents. That is the number, 232,120. Obviously, since the beginning of this year, since January, or even last year, late last year, people have been submitting their applications. They're receiving their ITAs. They're applying through Express Entry, non-Express Entry, provincial nominee programs, and a lot of those applications are continuing to be processed, right? So they will also become permanent residents throughout this year for the remainder of the year: August, September, October, November, December. And if they continue with this number, like whatever is the rate that they have continued to get to 232,000 as of end of June, then it is absolutely possible that while we reach December, that number could well exceed 500,000. At least that's what the numbers are suggesting, if they continue with this. So 2 things will happen. If they wish to stick with 465,000, or they wish to stick with this range that they have. Where is the range gone? Here. If they wish to stick with this range that they have, 410 to 505, then they probably may slow down the finalization of permanent residents towards the November, December. So the processing of the applications may slow down a bit, especially if you're inside Canada. That might slow down a bit, or COPRs, the way they're being issued, that might slow down a bit, so that they can, don't have to exceed this number by too much. But 505,000 confirmed, finalized permanent residents for this year is an absolute possibility. Hey, that's why I call myself forever hopeful, right? What's the point with that? But that also then prompts you that going forward for 2024, 2025, will there be an increase in the quotas? I am assuming so. I'm hoping so. And that information, obviously, we will get towards the end of October, November. That's when the new quotas are announced by Mark Miller, now the new immigration minister. So let's keep our eyes on to that as and when that happens. But as of right now, permanent resident train is steaming along, right? And they're really going pretty strong with this one. In other news, recognized employer pilot for temporary foreign workers. Now, there have been so many TikTok videos that is being made about these. The new temporary foreign workers, new LMIAs, new this, new that. And though these people who make these videos, they obviously tell you what it is, but they say it in such brief manner that you get confused and you start thinking, hey, Canada may have come up with some new program. Well, first of all, they've announced this pilot program, and this is primarily for the employers only who are considered as trusted, or basically who are now being identified as employers who are complying with all the conditions and requirements of hiring temporary foreign workers in Canada. Means they are paying the salaries on time, they have good workplace conditions, there have been no complaints against them, and primarily that they have within the last I think 2 years, within the last 5 years, they have at least 3 LMIAs that were approved for the same position. And at this point of time, this is only for the agriculture industries. And if they are the ones that they have, that if this is the employer, then this employer will have more simplified process for their LMIAs. And they will also get LMIAs for work permit, work permits will get approved for 36 months. And for the further extension, they will have more simplified process. That is what it is about. Okay, it does not make you as a candidate's job or life easy. You still have to find an employer, you still have to find an LMIA, and that, as we know, is as good as finding the Aladdin's chirag. Yeah. Now, new language tests as of the 10th of August, 2 days back, IRCC has now introduced the new language test requirements for the student direct stream. Now, for people who are aware, good for you. For people who are not aware, there are 2 streams, the non-SDS stream and the SDS stream. For the SDS stream, there are 14 or 16 countries. I keep forgetting how many countries, 14 or 16. 14 or 16 countries. If you are a citizen of these countries, that is including Pakistan and India, if you are a citizen of these countries and you live in that country at the time you're making the application, then you will be eligible under the student direct stream if you comply with the language requirements, which is now academic of band 6. Earlier, it was 6 each in all 4 factors. Now that has been changed to academic, IELTS academic, to have overall 6, which basically means you may have 5.5 in one, and that will also be acceptable. And that way, you will still be eligible under the SDS stream. Of course, the other requirements are that you pay for your 1 year of tuition fees upfront in advance, and you should also deposit $10,000 as a guaranteed investment certificate, GIC, with a bank in Canada, so that validates that you have sufficient expenses for your living in Canada. Once you comply with these requirements, the approval rate for SDS is higher than the non-SDS rates. But this is the condition. Not only that, they have now allowed. So earlier it was only IELTS which was accepted. Earlier it was only IELTS academic, then they accepted IELTS academic and IELTS general. Now, if you want to submit IELTS general, that is also accepted. But for IELTS general, you have to have 6 each in all 4 bands. But if it is IELTS academic, you can have 6 bands overall, which basically means even 5.5 in one, as long as the report says overall band is 6, that would be acceptable. In addition to that, the new language tests, which will also be acceptable, are CELPIP, CALE, which is also administered by the similar company as CELPIP. Then the Pearson Test of English, PTE. A lot of people were looking forward to this one. And the TOEFL. These exams will also be accepted for your SDS stream for IRCC for your study permit application. So hurrah, yeah, if you are looking forward for this information. That's basically all I have for today. Connect with us on social media platforms, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, etc. And we'll be happy to give you as much information as and how it comes along. Okay, now on we move to our question, and then we will see what else we have. Okay, let's start with this one. A much needed rant video yesterday. Thanks. If a person completes this 1 year Canadian work experience between the time of ITA and document submission, will he still need to show proof of funds? There are 2 things over here. First of all, let's talk about the much needed rant yesterday. So this video was recorded last week while I was doing a live stream, and I went on a total rant. When I'm saying I went on a rant, I basically I went on a rant, and I said a lot of things about, before you come to Canada, what you should be doing. Don't get stuck with certain cities in Canada and only want to live there. Explore your options. Check what all is available out there. Just do not fall into the trap of the next shiny object, all of this, right? Some people took it nicely. Some people took it very badly. Some people are quite critical about it, that I went on a rant and I'm very a negative person and being a hypocrite. Well, again, I can't dictate your opinion of me. I appreciate it. I thank you. At least you have an opinion of me, right? Good or bad, that doesn't matter. I will try to do better to make that opinion better, but I can't promise you that one. But I am what I am. I'm not going to come out and portray myself to be a different person. I am forever hopeful. That does not change one bit. But being forever hopeful does not mean being stupid. Okay, there's a big difference there. While it might be a thin line, but it's still a different one. Just because you are hopeful for something to happen, you should not be stupid and just expect it to fall into your lap. You still need to work at it. You still need to work hard at it. If you do not put your time and effort and be willing to do it, then it's not going to work for you. So that does not make me a hypocrite if I tell you that, hey, be forever hopeful, but do these things as well. But if that's what you think, then unfortunately, that's your opinion. And if you live with that kind of an opinion of me, that doesn't make any difference to me. But what that does is probably put you in a fool's paradise. So please be forever hopeful, but be realistic about what your options are and what things you should be looking at. Now, coming back to the question, if you have completed the Canadian work experience between the time of IT and document submission, then you will become Canadian experience class. If you have 1 year of work experience as of the date you submit your PR application, then you are a Canadian experience class. If you are a Canadian experience class, then you do not need proof of funds. Canadian experience class means you have completed 1 year of experience within the last 3 years as of the date you are submitting your PR application. And if you're a Canadian experience class, you do not need proof of funds. If you have a valid job offer, now valid job offer also that's where again people get confused. This is a job offer which is accompanied with either an LMIA, or you have a job offer which is LMIA exempt, but you are on a closed work permit and you have worked for this employer for at least 1 year, and this employer has now given you a job offer which states that this job offer is valid for 1 year after you become PR. Then again, by having this job offer, you now are exempt from providing proof of funds. I hope that clarifies once and for all. Okay, some super chats here. Let's see. Karthi, we got PPR for my wife and for me, spouse open work permit, but my daughter study visa is still pending. Why? And how long will it take? Well, because first of all, you got your PPR for your wife, you got for yourself. Your daughter's study permit could be in a different queue for processing. It's a different application type. I can't give you the answer of why, because I don't know anything about your application. And I also cannot tell you how long it will take, because I do not know where it has been submitted. I do not know why it is being held back. I do not know what were the processing requirements. I do not know what it may or may not be lacking in that application. But if it is just a processing queue, then I'm hoping at some point of time it will get approved and you would have it. But to be very honest, I cannot give you with any, I do not have any credible platform to offer you that information as to how long it will take and why is it being held back. You can raise a web form. You can request IRCC to give you more information about this particular application. You can mention that you already have approval for yourself and for your wife, and that you're planning your journey to Canada, and you will not be able to leave your daughter back. So if you can get that as soon as possible, then you will be on your way. Alternatively, your wife can go to Canada if she is as a student coming to Canada as a student, and she has to start her classes. And you, once your daughter's application is approved, you can follow with your daughter at a later date. That is a possibility. Okay, my wife's study permit expires on 31st of April 2024. My spouse open work permit has come in June 23, valid until 31st March 24. Won't travel before November. Will it be issue for traveling so late? No, it is not going to be an issue. Even if you travel on the 1st of March 2024, it is still absolutely fine. Even if you travel on the, let's say, 30th of March, yeah. As long as you arrive in Canada within the validity period of your visa, there is no problem whether you're arriving late. There is no problem with that at all. I have received notification of interest yesterday, but there was no OINP draw on August 11th. I have CRS score of 473. Should I accept it or wait for STEM draw? Well, let me assure you that there was a Ontario draw yesterday. It has just not been published on their website yet, but you have it. You have your notification of interest. by all means, please continue with your application. Now, there is no way for anybody out there to predict when the next STEM category draw will happen. There is also no way to guess or estimate or predict what the scores are going to be. So my suggestion is that you should continue with your application. If you don't want to be in a rush, don't submit until the 40th day. You have 45 days to submit your application. Don't submit until the 40th day. See how the scores are going, see how the draws are happening, see if the STEM category draws happen. If the STEM category draw hasn't happened, you haven't gotten invited, please go ahead and submit your application. If you have got invited in the STEM category draw, obviously forget about the OINP draw. And regardless, submit your Ontario application. And after that, after you've submitted your Ontario application, and after that, if you receive an ITA in express entry under your STEM draw, then go back to Ontario and withdraw your application. If they haven't started processing your application, they will refund your money as well. So that way you are safe on both counts and you don't lose out on the invitation. But congratulations for receiving the invitation. Is it normal to have delay of more than 3 weeks to PPR after all stages completed? Status in app status tracker, concerned of any further twists? Oh, it is absolutely normal for 3 weeks to PPR. Actually, it is normal to have up to 2 months, 2.5 months. For some reason, people assume that the minute everything is showing completed, they should get a PPR. It doesn't work like that. What you are seeing are very limited pieces of information on your tracker. There is much more to happen in the application. The final review could be pending. Also, most of the visa offices, they release passport requests in batches. They don't receive the minute you have completed your all the checks, immediately release the passport request. It doesn't work like that. It takes time because they are issued in batches. So whenever is the next batch processing day for your applications to be released from that particular visa office, that's when you get your passport request. This is another reason you would notice that so many people will come back on the Facebook groups, etc., and post about their passport request, having received their passport request on the same day. So that also validates what I'm trying to say, that these are released in batches, because how can so many people receive at the same point of time, right? They could have received when their application was processed, but that's not how it happens. Released in batches, and therefore sometimes it takes time. But congratulations in advance. Chandan Sharma, I'm sorry, there was no question there. Hiten says, my birth certificate has a different name in comparison of passport. What should I put in additional document with my different name birth certificate? Well, first of all, your birth certificate is not required in an express entry application. So I'm not sure what application you are trying to submit here. But if it's an express entry application, as an adult, you don't need your birth certificate. So there is no point of providing that. But if there have been two variations of your name or differences in your name, then in your express entry application, there is a requirement where it says, have you used any other name? Say yes to that, mention your other name. And when it has a tab to upload a document over there, you upload a one and same person affidavit, which you can get from any public notary wherever you live, and provide that document, and you are good to go. On tracker, email ID and phone number are incorrect for dependents. All details are correct for primary applicant. Should we correct them via web form, or can we leave it as we will get portal one email to reconfirm the same? Well, let's start the top. First of all, there is no such thing as portal 1, portal 2. I mean, I do not know how do people even come up with these nomenclatures. Earlier, it used to be something total IP1, IP2. Now there is portal 1, portal 2. First of all, there is no portal 1, portal 2 kind of an email. So please do not create these nomenclatures, which further confuses more people, who then have to deal with all these different names and abbreviations and nomenclatures and trying to figure out what to do with Canadian immigration. So to answer your question, even if the details are incorrect for the dependent applicants, you should raise a web form and inform IRCC. It's always better to keep all the information true and correct in your application. That's number one. Number two, primary applicant receives the portal, the confirmation email, not the portal email, first of all, the confirmation email saying that we are now finalizing your PR application. We need you to confirm whether you are inside Canada, what was the last date of your entry, where do you currently live, and that information. Once you have provided that information, that is when they create your portal access account and then send you that information so that you can then upload your photograph, confirm your address, and submit to IRCC. And once you have confirmed that, that is when your ECOPR is generated and sent to you. That is how it is. So there's only one portal. There is no portal 1 and portal 2. So that's something which you need to confirm, which you need to avoid using. Secondly, a portal, or sorry, even I'm beginning to say this portal, the confirmation email also goes out to the dependent applicant separately. So therefore, you should have the correct email IDs on your account, because the separate confirmation email will go to the primary applicant, separate will go to the dependent applicant. So always have all your information correct on your application at all times. That is something which you should be doing. Let's get rid of some of these screens here. Okay. Oh, before I go on, if you are watching this and if you are currently in Toronto, GTA area, then I am hosting an in-person session today, 2 p.m. in Mississauga at the Living Arts Center. The description of and the link to register is in the description box. Please go and check it out. And if you still haven't signed up, please do sign up. Why am I saying please do sign up is because I can obviously answer your questions in person. I do intend to talk a bit about different scams that are happening with relation to immigration, and also about the conventional routes of permanent resident and the non-conventional, the things that you can do in order to make your dreams come true. So if you are in Mississauga, if you're in the GTA area, then this might be few hours that are worth spending. We were charging $15 earlier. We decided to waive that fee for the reason because a lot of people got in touch with us and said, why are you charging money? You're making $15 out of us. I don't want to make 15 bucks out of you. Trust me, I make, by God's grace, I make what I need to make. All the money that we are collecting today, everything, every single penny of it goes to a charity, and I will do it. I will send the money live during the session so that you know for a fact that the money has gone to a charity. As of right now, we have waived you don't have to pay anything if you don't wish to. It's a donation. You want to pay $1, you want to pay $5, you want to pay $50, you pay $500. That's entirely up to you. Whatever you think is the value you will derive from that event, by all means pay or don't pay, and that's absolutely fine. The idea is to give back to you. The idea is to give back in any manner that I can to the community, because it has given me so much. It's my way of balancing my karma out, if you want to call that. And by all means, if you are in GTA, Toronto GTA area, if you are in Mississauga, then please come. 2 p.m. Living Arts Center, and we will have this discussion for much longer. We'll be there from 2 p.m. to 6 p.m. Moving on, I'm applying for federal PR through Ontario in master stream. My birth certificates have different names. Oh, I think we answered that question. That's the reason you're talking about the birth certificate. Now we get it. By all means, provide the one and same person's affidavit and as part of your application package, and you'll be good to go. Okay, some more super chats here. If a person gets PR supported LMIA from another employer, not from current employer, once the PR gets approved, then is it compulsory to join the employer who gave PR supported LMIA, or the person can join any job? Very good question. It confuses a lot of people. And the question usually is that if I have a job offer with the LMIA, and that is how I got my PR, do I need to work for that employer after I become a PR? Well, the answer to that question is no, you don't. And the reason for that is, once you become a permanent resident, your permanent resident is not conditional. There are no conditions attached to your permanent resident. Under the Charter of Rights and Freedom, the Constitution of Canada, it protects you. It tells you that you, as a permanent resident, you can work for any employer, you can work in any part of Canada, and you have the mobility rights. So you can absolutely, from the day you become PR, you can work for any employer. There is absolutely no restrictions. There is absolutely no conditions that you have to work for that employer. When you get the job offer points, what you're getting is that this job offer is valid. The job offer is valid. It's not the contract. People confuse these things. It is not the contract that you are under a contract from the employer to work for 1 year. That is not what it says. It says the job offer. The fact that the employer is making you an offer, this offer, for example, you will see a job offer. It says this job offer is valid for 5 days. Otherwise, it will be rescinded if you do not accept it. Or please accept this job offer in 5 days or 4 days or 1 week or 2 weeks or 30 days. Otherwise, this job offer will become invalid. That is what IRCC is looking for. And that is what the condition is, that you have to get a job offer which is valid for 1 year after you become PR. So the fact that you work for that employer or not is not a problem. The fact that the job offer, the offer that you may be employed is valid for 1 year, that is the requirement. So by all means, work for whoever you want to work once you become a permanent resident. I hope that clarifies. I received a notification of interest yesterday from Quebec. Okay, very nice. Planning to land in Quebec to receive permanent resident and come back to Lebanon. There are consequences to come to Ontario since my kids are English educated and it's hard to find English schools in Quebec. Okay, so you are going to become permanent resident based on the Quebec's immigration program. Well, just like a provincial nominee program, first of all, I am not licensed in Quebec immigration, and I cannot give you any advice with regards to Quebec immigration, especially because you have paid for the super chat. But all I can tell you is please check. I'm going to give you some information, share that information with you, and tell you that please check the Quebec immigration program. If it restricts or if it asks you to express your intention to live in Quebec, then you should be living in Quebec for at least a period of time to validate your expression, your expression of having your intention of having wanting to reside in Quebec. If not, then you by all means can go to any part of Canada and live there. The whole point is that yes, the Charter of Rights and Freedom does protect you by under the mobility rights by telling you that you can live and work anywhere in Canada. However, there is also the condition under which you received your permanent residence. And if the condition is such that it says that you have expressed your intention, you have stated, I want to live here, and based on that is what you're getting your permanent residence, then at least comply with your intention. If you don't comply with the intention, then that is considered as you having lied about your intention, that you never intended to. And that would be considered as misrepresentation. So by all means, please check the Quebec website. Please check your immigration applications to see if there was any specific intention that you expressed explicitly to reside in the province. If not, then you should be good to go. I hope that helps. Okay. Do you have any idea what the timeline is for getting the TRV right now? Well, for timelines, you can always refer to the IRCC website. They are updating it. And at this point of time, they are pretty much in line with what the actual timelines are. If you're inside Canada, the TRV could take about 20 to 45 days to get approved. Okay. Thanks for all the hard work. Thank you. When can we expect the parents and grandparents program to open this year or next year? You never know with IRCC. Well, the expectation for the parents, grandparents, well, there is a 25,000 people quota for that program for this year. It's an increased quota. And I expect that stream to open in September or October this year. That's usually the time, usually the last quarter of year. And that's what I'm expecting. September or October this year, that's when they will open the stream. At this point of time, it's still going to be a lottery. We haven't seen any changes. So let's see how that goes about it. Does everyone satisfying the requirement of OINP tech draw receives a notification of interest? No, that's not how it works. The people, how it is done with notification of interest for Ontario is they're looking at only two things when they issue your notifications of interest. They're looking at your primary NOC code, and they're looking if your CRS score falls between the range under which they've invited. So if the CRS score range is 473 to 480, and your primary NOC code is one that is listed as the one that they're interested in, then in most cases, you will receive a notification of interest. Very rarely have I seen people not receiving a notification in spite of complying with these two conditions. For that, there could be a different reason, which honestly, I don't know about. But if you comply with these two, then you are. And therefore, Ontario further says that you should check their website, that you should check for their requirement for eligibility before you proceed with the application. Because you are receiving the notification of interest only on these two conditions, because your primary NOC code is one that you have chosen and the CRS range. In addition to that, there are plenty of other conditions. For example, you have to have an ECA of at least a bachelor's degree. A 3-year program won't do it. Your work experience, your primary NOC code work experience, you should have at least 1 year work experience within the last 5 years, not the last 10 years, last 5 years. So these are some of the conditions you also have to meet in order to be eligible before you proceed with your Ontario application. So please make sure that you do comply with them. Can we see any healthcare draw in near future or even next week? Well, I don't know about the next week, but I certainly feel that there should or there would possibly be another healthcare draw at least this year. Could be multiples, but at least one for sure. And the reason for that is because Sean Fraser, when he was referring to the healthcare categories in a press conference, he mentioned that the quotas are going to be roughly, approximately 4,000, 4,500 per year. So with that number, and they've issued only 2,000 invitations so far, I'm assuming there would be at least, if not multiple, at least one more draw for sure. Okay. If I am self-employed under open work permit, is there a way to apply for express entry with a 1-year experience? You can apply an express entry, but only by using your foreign work experience. And the reason for that is your self-employed work experience inside Canada is not considered eligible for Canadian work experience. So therefore, that would not count. But if you have work experience outside Canada, then that will definitely count and you can still apply. But if you're inside Canada, self-employed work experience will not be working. 6 months of 2 paid internship while studying undergrad degree in India, same NOC count towards 1 year of experience, CRS points, and minimum eligibility criteria for FSW. Well, as long as that paid internship was continuous, so there was no gap between the two, and the NOC code was the same. Employers could be different. That doesn't matter. If the NOC code was the same and you have this 2 periods of work experience where there was no gap, then it counts for the minimum eligibility for federal skilled worker as well as for the 1 year of work experience for CRS. As a recent PR who wants to get her parents on visiting visa to Canada, they are retired and they are spending 20 years in Qatar, what are the chances of visit visa approval? Are they dim? Well, so the visit visa application, what is a visit visa application? Visit visa application is for your temporary residence in Canada for a short duration to visit family, friends, relatives, even visit Canada. That is what a visit visa is. What IRCC is looking for the applicants who are making a visit visa application is that they should be able to establish, one, their purpose of visiting Canada. Why are they visiting Canada? Number one. Number two, that they should have sufficient funds for their travel to Canada, which basically means if they have sufficient funds, then once they arrive in Canada, they will not want to work illegally. And number three, which is the most important, is that they have very strong ties to their home country, which basically will then, encourage them to return back. If you are able to establish these 3 factors, the chances are your application gets approved. The fact that they have lived for 20 years in Qatar, well, that becomes a case for you to make, to say that these people have lived in Qatar for such a long time and they have always complied with the law of the land. They have always respected the law of the land. They have never done anything untowards, against the law, and therefore that makes them for a credible, bona fide visitor. If they also have other travel history, you should highlight that. God forbid, worst case, if your visit visa application gets refused, in that case, you are already a permanent resident. If you have eligible income, then you can apply for the super visa, and that has a much higher chances for approval. Okay, for express entry, I submitted proof of 1 year of foreign work experience. Given that many foreign banks don't provide 5-year back statements, would IRCC request them, and or are pay stubs sufficient? Well, in most cases, IRCC is happy with the pay stubs as long as your work experience can be validated in any manner. In some cases, they do insist upon the bank statements. And if that happens, you can always get a letter from the bank to say that they cannot give you the 5-year-old bank statements. Because, who really holds on to the bank statements from 5 years back? In addition to that, you can provide income tax returns that you would have access to from the 5 years period, and to establish the genuineness of your work experience. Okay, NOC code 21232 expressed interest in all provinces but didn't get notification of interest from Ontario, whereas others with the same NOC code and score got it. It's not my story, but of many others. Well, to be very honest, as of right now, Ontario hasn't published the draw, which is a good possibility that they will continue with the draw when they do publish. Sometimes they've done it. They've conducted the draw over multiple days, 1, 2, or hasn't been for 3, but I've seen over 1 or 2 days. So there is a good possibility that they will send out additional notifications of interest. Otherwise, if they don't send it out, to be very honest, I can't tell you why they haven't picked up this particular NOC code. It could be there could be a very good reason that they choose to identify only specific NOC codes and only identify them and only invite them. So we'll have to wait and see once they publish the draw details to know exactly who has been invited. Okay. Why some people get TRV till PGWP and some people get till passport validity? Very, very, very good question. I mean, I wish IRCC was a bit consistent about it. Well, earlier, what used to happen is when they would issue a postgraduate work permit or study permit or work permit, open work permit, any work permit, they would usually give a TRV, which is a visa to come to Canada, for the same duration until the validity of the permit. During COVID, specifically during COVID, what they started doing is, because they did not want to limit with this particular condition, they opened it up, and instead of issuing a TRV with the specific code of the work permit or the student visa, they started issuing a V category, which is a TRV for visitors, and gave the validity until the next 10 years or until the validity of the passport. At this point of time, they have reverted back to issuing TRVs only for the validity of the permit. Why they do it? Only IRCC can answer that question. Okay, more questions coming through. I've got 5 more minutes. Let me see how many I can finish. My wife joining university in January. I will be on spouse open work permit, which is the best pathway for PR from work permit, CEC, PNP with job offer. Well, the idea is for you to research which province your wife is going to study in, identify what programs that province offers, identify where and what prospects you have to get a job offer, and then looking at that province's immigration stream, you see what is the best opportunity. Will you be able to score enough points for CEC the way the draws are happening? Or do you think finding an employer who is going to be supportive of your application, would that be the better pathway? That probably is going to answer your question directly itself. For soft landing and wanting to bring luggage later, would the document be valid even if the second entry happens after 10 months from first date of entry to Canada? Okay, good question. Haven't seen this question in a long time. So let's take this one. What you're referring to is goods to follow. Now, as far as goods to follow is concerned, as a permanent resident who's coming to Canada for the first time, you can declare to CBSA that you have several goods that will be brought in later. So you can prepare an Excel sheet or a Word document and take a printout of it, carry 2 copies of it. Ideally mention details. So for example, if you have 6 chairs, 4 tables, 2 bedroom sets, 4 bags of used clothes, 1 car, if you're importing car from the US, 2 computers, 2 cameras, whatever that might be, you list down all the items and also mention corresponding Canadian dollar value for each of those items. Take the total, take that document, and when you come to CBSA customs section after becoming a permanent resident, after clearing immigration, and then you present it to them and say you would like to import goods later or you have goods to follow. Sometimes the officer might just wave you and say, okay, do it later, or yes, you can bring it, but insist the officer to complete the BSF 186 form and also to stamp a copy of your goods to follow. Thereby, you don't have to complete any forms. The CBSA officer themselves will complete out the form. It's a form as a BSF 186, if I remember correctly. They will attach a copy of your list to that form, keep it with themselves, and they will give you 1 copy with the stamp, saying that, yes, these are the goods that you are allowed to bring at a later date, customs duty free. Now, once you have that document, you can bring those items at any point of time in your life. It's not about 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. At any point of time, you can bring those goods and they will be brought in customs duty free. Now, if you have any jewelry, any precious items that you wish to bring in, then just your stating the value is not going to help. You should also get a jewelry evaluation done. So go to your country, go to any jeweler who is an authorized evaluator, have them complete a jewelry evaluation document, which will typically take a picture of the jewelry or whatever the jewelry item is, and also mention the current value as of that date. So make sure you attach those jewelry evaluations also along with your goods to follow, and then that becomes a great document to hold on to in case you're bringing any goods any goods that you're bringing in later on and you want to bring them customs duty free. That is a good thing to do. Well, that's pretty much all I have time for today. Thank you so much for joining in. Okay, there are some other super chats. Let me clear that. I would not want that those people to think. Okay, I have 471 in STEM and I've also applied for PNP draws. When can I receive notification of interest or ITA? I can't tell you. There is no way for me to predict what draws, what scores will come at what point of time. STEM category draws are not being held. I mean, I do not know why they're not being held. Whenever they do happen, the scores would certainly be looking to drop, but I do not know how much they will drop. As far as Ontario is concerned, they always play in tandem with the express entry. So let's hope that once the STEM draw happens in express entry, Ontario conducts another tech draw so that you can get invited there as well. Gaurav, I'm sorry, there was no question there. Neville, nothing there. Vijay, I'm sorry, no question. Vijay, we have a question now. Can we expect postgraduate work permit extension in 2024? It's a possibility, but I doubt it. And the reason why I doubt it, because now they have no reason to extend postgraduate work permits anymore at this point of time. Earlier, COVID had a great impact on that decision. And the only reason to extend postgraduate work permits in 2020, 21, 22, 23 was primarily and had to do a lot to do with COVID. At this point of time, with 2024 expiries, they do not have any more motivation or reason. But who am I to say, right? I mean, IRCC has known to make some very strange decisions in the past, and it may very well happen. But I would not bet my money on it. General category 491 CEC, any hope this year? Well, again, very difficult to make any predictions of scores because IRCC has been very inconsistent in the way they have been conducting draws. I do anticipate at least one or two regular draws from IRCC, at least once they have cleared out all the category based draws, at least one draw for each category. After that, I do expect them to do at least one draw, 3,000, 3,500 kind of an ITA, kind of a draw. But even in that, it will all depend how many people are in the pool at that point of time. So while 491 is a great score, if I was in your place, I would try and improve it to as much as I can and then give myself a better chance. All right. That is all that I can do within this period of time. As I said, if you're in Toronto GTA area, please do drop in at the Living Arts Center in Mississauga. We will be starting at 2 p.m. Thank you so much for joining in. Hey, don't forget to follow us on Instagram. If you wish to make an appointment, this is the link. This is for one-on-one discussion about your profile, about your queries, about your concerns, and then we can understand better what solutions could be offered. Thank you so much for joining in. I wish you all the very best. I will stay forever hopeful. I wish you do as well, but be realistic as well. Thank you. Take care, and I'll see you next time.